Hi guys, Shawn here from digiDirect. So as you might have guessed from my little display here, today we're going to be talking about tripods and specifically Benro tripods. So digiDirect has just started stocking Benro tripods. We're pretty excited about it. I thought I'd give you guys a little bit of a walkthrough of a couple Benro models and extrapolate about the range in general. Now Benro is a Chinese tripod manufacturer. They make tripods that are most comparable to Manfrotto in terms of design and price point and quality. There's obviously a lot of different tripod manufacturers, but Manfrotto is the one that I'm going to be making the most comparisons with when we talk about the Benro range. Now, in a nutshell, some of the points that I'm going to hit on here is that Benro tripods tend to be cheaper than comparable tripods from other manufacturers. At least they're the same price. If not, they tend to be a little bit cheaper. They're very, very good quality. This tripod here and this monopod are actually my own. I've had them both for over 2 years. They've stood through a lot of not necessarily being super careful with them as well, and I'll touch on that in a minute, but very sturdy build, very long lasting, very high quality. They all have a number of really smart little design features in them that we typically don't see in other manufacturers' tripods until you hit a higher price point. So Benro does a good job of factoring some nice little features there, and we'll touch on some of them as we go through the range here. They all come with carry cases, which is a great little feature. You can see I've got one just up in the corner there, just an example. I started off by mentioning the sturdiness, the quality, and yeah, I can definitely attest to that. This tripod, like I said, I've had for over 2 years. It's been chucked in airplanes, chucked in the backs of trunks of cars. I use it normally for these videos. I use it all the time, multiple times a week. And really, it's basically in the same state as when I got it. There's a couple small aesthetic marks, kind of just from my own carelessness, but functionally, it's literally identical to the day that I bought it. It's really, really good quality. I've really had no issues at all with any quality issues from the tripod itself. And like I said, the same goes for this monopod. That's also mine. Okay, so let's look at a couple of the options in the range. So the first one I have here is called the Eyetrip. So the Eyetrip is a small photo tripod. You can see it comes to a pretty good height, about my head. Once you put on the camera on top, that'll be about my head height. But it packs up pretty small. It's fairly light, not too hard to carry around with you. All the Benro tripods have this nice padded foam grip on one of the legs, which is really nice for carrying them, especially if it's cold. If you live in a cold climate, you know, metal can get cold obviously, so it's nice to have that little grip there. We see leg adjustments throughout 3 different positions, which is something that we'll see on all the Benro tripods here as well. Fairly standard feature for most tripods. A great sturdy ball head on this one, a nice high quality ball head, pretty decently sized. You can see there, not too small but not too big. This tripod has a load capacity of 6 kilograms, which is pretty high for a tripod of this size. You know, if you put, say, a 5D Mark III and a large lens on here, you're not going to be much over 1 kilogram. So 6 is way more than you probably will need. So that's very good. We're going to come here now to one of the first features in terms of their little smart design features that I've mentioned, and that's the detachable monopod leg. So these Benro tripods have or most of them, not all of them, but this one, for example, and the Aero 4 beside me as well, although not mine, have the ability to detach one of the legs, and you can then also detach the center column and screw them together, and then you've got a monopod. And a decently sized monopod as well, again, comes about to my head height. So nice, good little monopod, so dual purpose from the tripod there. Obviously, we've seen this on some other tripod manufacturers as well, although typically not from, like I said, tripod manufacturers of this quality. You know, Manfrotto, for example, doesn't really have this in any of their options, so that's a really nice little feature to have in the Eyetrip. Next up here, we'll look at the Benro Arrow 4. Now, this is a video tripod. You can see obviously the head is different. We've got a video pan and tilt head here. Nice fluid head, very smooth, very good quality. The tripod itself is similar to the Eyetrip. It's a little bit taller, a little bit thicker, a little bit sturdier. Still has that detachable monopod leg feature, which is really nice. Since we've got a fluid head on here, that basically gives you like a video monopod, which is, you know, not a cheap investment if you were to get it separately. So that's, again, really nice to have on here. On the legs on the bottom of the tripod, we now see that we've got these little rubber feet that can be adjusted to be either rubber if you're indoors, or if I'm outdoors, I can screw it down and make them be spikes, which is nice. If we take a look at the head, this is the S4 head. Now there's also a smaller S2 head, a larger S6 head, which is on my tripod here, and a larger, again, S8 head. The S4 head here, we've got independent pan and tilt controls, which is great. If we look at the quick release plate, we can see that it's the same size plate that a Manfrotto video head would have. So it's compatible with most Manfrotto video heads as well if you're making the switch or the transition. Although I find that the quick release system is a little bit better on the Benro here. It's just a simple twist of this and then it's still locked in, so even if you haven't tightened it up, your camera's not going to go flying. But then I just hold this blue button down and now I can easily extract it. I find the Manfrotto, typically the heads have a little separate button on underneath the head, which is a little bit harder to get at, a little bit harder to put on and off, so that's really nice on the Benro heads. Okay, now we'll come to our next one of these little features that Benro has added to make their tripods a little bit more premium level, even though they're at not quite that price point. That's this little ball level head that we see on the video tripods. Now this is a really big deal. I use this every time I use the tripod. You can see I've got the same level on mine here. I find it almost invaluable. I couldn't go back to not having one of these. So basically what it does is lets you, if you loosen this here, now I can swivel the head. I don't have a complete range of movement, but I've got a good adjustment range. So I can swivel the head and level it. I can use the level at the back here to level it off and tighten that up. Now that's really, really good because let's say I'm not on a level ground, which I'm not on level ground right here. So let's say I've got the tripod kind of at a weird angle. Rather than having to, kind of go back and forth between the three legs and adjust it all until it's all perfectly level, which takes a while, I can just have the tripod be set up here, then I adjust the level, and boom, I'm level. Even though the tripod itself is not level, the head is level. So really, really quick and fast way to level off your tripod, to do that just really, really fast. When I'm using a slider, again, invaluable to just be able to level the slider off or even tilt it at an angle that I desire. Again, easily, quickly, without a lot of hassle. Again, we don't really see that on tripods of this price point from other competitors. So that's a really, really nice feature. Also nice on these video heads is the fact that these little knobs that control the pan, for example, or the quick release, they can be pulled out and you can adjust the position of the knob without actually turning the knob. So that's if you have a setup where your rig is somehow blocking one of the knobs. And I've had this happen to me a couple times based on whatever rig and setup you're using. Maybe there's something blocking the way here and you can't actually turn the knob past a certain point. Well, then you can just pull it out, readjust the positioning, and then continue to turn, which again is a nice little feature. Just another one of those little touches that they've added in to make their tripods really, really usable. Okay, then we get to the tripod that I have here. Again, we see a lot of the same features. It's kind of a larger version of the Aero 4 that I looked at there. There's also an Aero 2, which is a smaller version of it, so a fairly compact video tripod, which still has a nice fluid head on there, which is really good to have. But I've got the same, that ball joint thing that I mentioned that is invaluable to me. I have it on here. This one has the S6 head, which is a slightly larger head, gives you a few extra controls. I've got a control over the drag and the fluidity of the head, so I can make it more or less resistant to the pan and tilt. I also have a counterbalance on the front here, so if you have a camera which is front heavy from the lens, you can have a counterbalance so it won't just fall forward like that. So a couple extra features on here. The bubble level now has a little light, so if you're in a dark area, you can press the button here. That lights up and illuminates the bubble level. So if you're in a wedding reception or somewhere where you can't see it, it's a nice little way to do that. Again, I don't use that all the time, but when I need it, it's nice to have. Again, another little premium feature that they've added in there. Okay, and then now we can take a look at the video monopod that I had standing there. This is it collapsed. It was in full extension there. You can see it was freestanding. That's because it has these three video monopod feet at the bottom. I've already mentioned that I don't have the head on here because I just use this head and I alternate it, but you can certainly get the kits where they come with the heads, either the S6 head like you saw here or the S4 head that was on the Aero 4 that we were looking at earlier. What I really like about this is the leg lock mechanism is very quick. I just simply press this button in here and the leg flips up, so it's really quick and easy to flip the legs into the locked position. If you compare this to the Manfrotto video monopod, which is overall very similar to this one, the locking mechanism is a little bit more convoluted. There's a button on either side that you have to you have to pull in against the spring and then flip it up. Just takes a little bit longer. Again, just a slightly better locking mechanism on the Benro ones here, which, you know, in the long run will save you time. So now I've tossed the head on here. Another nice feature of the video monopod is the head is the same head that you would get with this tripod. So it's the exact same head. Now that means that I've got pan and tilt in the head. Now if we compare this to the Manfrotto version of this monopod, which is overall very similar except for the leg locks like I mentioned, the head that comes with is actually a little bit different than the fluid head that goes on their tripods. The head that comes with the monopod doesn't have pan control. The way that you pan the monopod is you actually have to spin the whole monopod, which you can still do with this monopod, but I also have the additional option of having the pan on just the head itself. Now, and that means that I can interchange this fluid head like I do with my tripod. If I was to take the fluid head from the Manfrotto version of this monopod and put it on my tripod, all of a sudden I don't have pan control now because the head itself doesn't have pan control. It's just in the monopod. So again, just another one of these little differences, just minor little smarter design choices that we see from Benro, and they kind of add up to just an easier to use tripod system. Okay, so that's just a very quick look at a very small part of the Benro range. They obviously make a lot more than just what you see here. You know, they've got photo, video tripods, compact ones, much larger, sturdier ones, aluminum, carbon fiber, monopods. They even make jibs and sliders. So pretty much any kind of camera support system you might want, probably Benro makes it. So just to sum up the point I was making at the beginning of the video, we see a lot of little advantages here from the Benro lineup. First being, you know, all those little smart design features that I've pointed out as we went through the range there. Little things that just elevate the tripods to a higher, more premium level without increasing the cost. You know, we don't see these features typically on comparably priced competitors' tripods. These are things like the removable monopod leg, the swivel head on the video tripods, the adjustable knobs here, the better locking mechanism on the video monopod legs, for example, and so on. So just these little features that go a long way to make the tripods a lot more usable, in my opinion. Then we look at the quality and the sturdiness and the robustness of the tripods. Like I said, I've used and abused my tripod and monopod for years, and they are no worse for the wear. They're very sturdy. I have no qualms recommending Benro in terms of their quality. We also see tripod cases that come with the whole range, which again is not something we see from competitors, and they're also generally priced a little bit less. At the very least, they're about the same price, but typically they're a little bit less than an equivalent model from a competitor. So just a lot of nice advantages that we see from the Benro lineup. I have no hesitation recommending them, and I think that you'd really enjoy them if you grab one for yourself. Now you can take a look at some of the Benro products if you come into our Melbourne showroom. We've got some on display there. You can also order them on our website at www.digidirect.com.au. Take care, guys.